The first person that I'd like to introduce on stage is Cedric Bollard, who is very in touch with multiple entrepreneurs and investors. He's been producing a series of 116 episodes and talking to them, so he's got really from all very different perspectives, quite a good know-how. He's founder of Global Tech Box and is an aspiring VC. He might be able to tell you more about that on his own introduction, or maybe later on over lunch. He's running the startup show, so please come on stage and run with it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Who's excited to be here? Woo! Okay. Quick question I always have to ask. Who has seen any kind of video or my yellow sweater somewhere online? Show of hands. Anybody? One? Come on, you're an alumni of my startup show, at least one. Okay, that's great, because that means you all have to follow me after this presentation, because you all will want to be on my show. Now, one more question. Who is outside of Europe? Okay, nice. Let me give you a quick rundown of what I do. Global Tech Box first is a video platform that covers topics all about startups, technology, and innovation. And we have multiple video series where the Startup Show, which is what you see up here, is basically our flagship video series that I host myself. I moderate this, and we produce those videos on a weekly basis. What you see here is our season 1, where Pascal was part of startups and Alex, one of the investors. And I asked them all kinds of questions about their startup, about their personal background, always from the perspective of an investor. So that's kind of my goal. I asked a lot of investors what they're keen on hearing in those videos. So if you have an interesting startup, make sure to send me your pitch deck and I consider you for the next recordings. This is all free, by the way, for the startups, just so you know. Now, we produce a lot of video series in collaboration with brands. So if you're wondering how we make money, this is how we do it. Now, we started recently with the vlog. The idea of vlogging by me started because on the startup show, I actually want to give the entrepreneurs the spotlight. As a moderator, it's a no-go to talk about your opinions and yourself. So in the vlog, I actually can talk a little bit about my ideas and what I was experiencing being here in the Swiss startup ecosystem. So the last vlog, number 5, was about developing human-level AI here in Switzerland. Mindfire, maybe anybody heard about this? I will say a few words about it after. And actually, anybody knows Stevie Wozniak, co-founder of Apple? So I met him in Vienna, and the video will be live tomorrow. So if you're interested in hearing what I got to speak to Stevie Wozniak for literally 1 minute of recording time with him, it was a lot of fun. Anyhow, so that's about me. We are on all platforms, so make sure if you are anywhere interested in hearing more or watching my videos, get insights from the entrepreneur, that's where you find me. So now about what I want to talk to you today. Thanks to all of these videos that I was doing, I got kind of a very nice holistic approach of all what's going on in the Swiss startup ecosystem. I've seen a lot of startups, I've seen a lot of investors, I speak to them on the record, off the record, I see a lot of corporates, innovation hubs. And today I want to give you a short overview. We don't have so much time to go into deep on all of these levels, but I want to give you some inspiration for when you're, let's say, raising funds, where you could find funds here in Switzerland as an example, which is maybe a little bit different than other countries. So let's get started. We have startups literally in every space, in every vertical, in every stage, and in every fundraising stage also. So you see, I don't know, we went live about, I would say, 4 or 5 months ago. It exists for about a year and a half. Then we have PropMatch, which is a company that helps matching people who want to buy or rent a new apartment, so they see what's in the area. We have Scandit and Starmind, both raised very big rounds. Scandit, I think, recently 12 million Swiss francs or dollars, I don't even know. And Starmind, 30 million, which is an AI company based here a little bit outside of Zurich, but still in the canton of Zurich. And then Le Bijou is probably one of the oldest startups I've featured thus far. What they do is the luxury version of Airbnb. They are actually not even financed through equity, they only raised through debt financing. Also something to keep in mind if you don't want to give up equity, but willing to pay some kind of interest. So that just to show you that we really have all kinds of verticals and everything that a startup scene kind of needs. Now let's look at the investors. Also here we have all kinds of investors that are looking to invest in different stages and different structures of deals. When you look at the technology fund, which is managed by Emerald Ventures, they got $500 million Swiss francs from the Swiss government to invest in clean tech, social impact, green tech, all of these kind of like topics here in Switzerland. So very worthwhile because they're also looking only to do debt investments. So you don't even have to give up equity, but you have to give interest. B2v Ventures is very interesting. They're located, headquartered in St. Gallen, a little bit outside of Zurich. What is very special about them, when you look for smart investors, they have actually a network of, I think, 150 people that are very high up in the industry and can also probably help you when making introduction and getting to the next level with your company. Investiere, what they do is equity crowdfunding. Also, those people are represented and very important for the ecosystem. And Curated Venture is one of the first bigger venture capital funds that opened up an office here in Zurich after, I think, Munich and Berlin. So, as you can see, also international venture capital funds slowly are coming to Zurich to make investments. Startup initiatives, I guess DigitalSwitzerland you all know. Anybody heard about the Crypto Valley yet? Switzerland is probably trying to position itself, from my perspective, in two main areas. One is blockchain in Zug with the Crypto Valley, and the second one with developing human-level AI. That's what you see, Mindfire. That's also where I'm very involved in. It's basically trying to crack the brain code. It could be a presentation by itself. Very fascinating when you think of unlimited knowledge in a machine, just like as a side note to think of. Also, if you decide to be here, there is an investor club called SIGTIC. It's founded by Thomas Dübendorfer, who is a former Googler. He was at Google, I think, for 8 years. Very, very, very nice, humble guy. Also very technology savvy. And he decided that he wants to start investing in early stage companies, but he didn't really have the deal flow yet. And then when he had it, he realized that a lot of people also need that. So he built an investor club where they don't invest in the startups, but they help the investors to find good companies. So they screen about 1,200 companies a year, have 200 investors in their club. And from a statistic perspective, once you pass the first screening, I think your chances of getting an investment is at 50%. So this is definitely worthwhile to look at if you're in early stage. Corporates, very interesting topic here in Switzerland. Corporates tend to give the perspective that they want to do innovation and it's very hard, but they have a ton of cash. Here, I would say we have some very active investors, for example, the Zürcher Kantonalbank, second from the top. So what they do is they have a yearly budget, I think, of 12 million Swiss francs just to foster the local economy here in Zurich by investing in early stage companies. That doesn't have to be necessarily tech companies. It can be any type of startup, but it has to be something that it helps to grow the local economy. So if you decide to found abroad, then this is probably not going to be the right one. Credit Suisse and UBS, biggest banks probably globally, but also here in Switzerland. Both of them are very active in innovation. They're scouting for startups to do POCs, but not always easy. Now, one thing I want to say about Credit Suisse, they're very helpful when you as a founder are interested in having a client relationship manager at a bank. They have a special department for entrepreneurs that help the entrepreneurs to get contacts to relevant people. So also something to keep in mind when you are looking for a new wealth advisor or someone to manage your money, and they might be helpful to you beyond just telling you which stock to buy and sell. The bottom two logos are Valdavis and Bär & Karre. Those are two lawyer companies, also very smart people. Both of them have dedicated startup desks. So it's also very helpful if you have a lawyer, let's call him a smart lawyer, who can give you advice beyond just looking at your legal documents. Next up, Accelerators. I think Startup Factory is going to come later. Kickstart Accelerator, I think you heard enough. So I'm going to only briefly show it to you as kind of like the overview as a whole. Now, what's very interesting is the universities here in Switzerland. There are many companies, for example, like Disney Research or other companies that opened up offices just to be close to, for example, the ETH. That has, I think, as of now, a portfolio of over 300 companies that are spin-offs of the ETH. And the same applies to the University of St. Gallen, where they have more like the business people, I think, at roughly 150 companies that are a spin-off of the university. Also, the HWZ here in Zurich, they also recently started with a label and a degree just for entrepreneurship. What's very important to know here, many companies come for talent acquisition. So they're looking for less maybe your company, more like who are the people who are in the development team, and maybe hire the entire thing. One of the key examples, it's not a Swiss company, but it's a Wildfire that was run by two Swiss entrepreneurs, or like a couple. He is Swiss, and they sold their company for 450 million to Google about 4 years ago, just for the sake of the talented people that they hired. That gives you kind of like an overview of the entire ecosystem. Again, the goal is a very holistic approach, not like deep down, so we could talk about each of these elements for at least an hour, but this should give you a nice overview. Just to give you like the key takeaways, I believe, and that's my personal opinion, I think Switzerland is a very, very good hotspot right now to build your company. The money is here, and that's my next point actually, that the risk capital of investors or ultra high net worth individuals or family offices or investors who are looking to diversify their portfolio because they don't make enough return with bonds and stocks or whatever it is, or they're bored with everything else, so they're interested in making investments in startups. I think it's very good timing, which is the last point of my key takeaway, that I think if you want to start and you're looking for money and you're looking to have a good ecosystem, I think Switzerland, and in specific, let's say Zug for blockchain or Zurich, is a very, very good place to be. Before we get into the Q&A, I think if you have some questions after, we can also answer them. I made a list. It's publicly available for everybody, so if you go onto my website, globaltechbox.com, you type into the search field Swiss players, you will find this blog post, and in there is a link to an open Google Sheet, and on there you can find 1,200 startups, 300 investors, office spaces, all kinds of grants. Grants is a very big thing here in Switzerland. You can get a lot of money just by applying and winning some kind of competitions without giving up any equity. So there are, I think, about 15 in there, where you can win between, I think, 4,000 to 100,000 francs. So also worthwhile to have a look at this. So that's it from my side. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Maybe topics could be Swiss startup ecosystem, my videos, social media. Happy to answer if you have any questions. Yes?
What's the attitude here about bringing companies in from other countries? Is there, do they embrace it? Do they not embrace it? What's the environment like?
Well, as a rep office or as like headquarters?
Rep office.
Rep office. You know, like in general, I think the Swiss economy lives out of innovation. So I think that it's definitely open-minded. Again, culture-wise, it does need some adjustment, especially when you come from outside of Europe. Get to know the Swiss mentality can be challenging. But I think bottom line, it's not so hard to adjust to the lifestyle here in Switzerland. And people are pretty open-minded, especially in the startup ecosystem. When you go into corporate, maybe a different world. But as far as I experienced it, I think it's a very, very nice environment.
Yeah, I need to move my headquarters here in Western Europe.
Yeah.
Should I go to Switzerland or should I go to France, Luxembourg, or Germany, which are in Europe? What would be the main attractors here in Switzerland, knowing that Switzerland is not, unfortunately, part of Europe?
Well, from a financial perspective, I think here you are very well located for potential investments. I think, again, like the timing for investments here is great. It's every investor I speak to, especially who don't have a venture capital fund, so early stage seed investor, angel investors, they're just looking for deal flow. When you look at the technology fund who's interested in like green tech and stuff like this, they don't have enough deal flow. So, you know, like in general, I think here in Switzerland, the salaries are probably higher than what you find in Eastern Europe, for example. But I think what you get as an ecosystem is fantastic.
Could you speak a little bit more about the grants and how that works? What are the typical grant offers looking for? And
grants.
Grants.
Yeah, I mean, the one that's on top of my head is, for example, like Founder of the Year from the University of St. Gallen. If you win that, you get 4,000 francs. Or there's, for example, the ZKB Pioneer Prize, which is, I think, 100 times or 1,000 times P, something like this. It's just close to 100,000 Swiss franc, where you have to meet certain criteria to be eligible. And then there's a jury, and then they go through a process, and then you win or you don't. And then there's various competitions, like the e-commerce prize was given, like, I think 2 weeks ago. There's a ton. I don't know them all by heart, but again, I refer to my list. You should find at least 15 there.
You're also investing in early companies or just startups, early stages?
Me personally?
The people
present?
Here in Switzerland? Yes. I mean, there are a lot of early stage investors. When you look onto Cedric, they only do angel investing. So ticket sizes from 50 to $250,000 and bigger equity sizes. Yes. But they always want to have like a board seat. They always want to be part of the, hands-on work and not just here, take my money and run. Sorry? Active Smart, yeah. Okay, so this is my Instagram. Anybody who comes after to me, you get 9 seconds to pitch on my Instagram account. So basically you get 9 seconds, I'll add it to my story, I'll watch it after, and if you're good enough, I'll add it to my eternal startup and VC highlights. But you only have 9 seconds. Many attempts, you can try many times, but at the end it's only one. And if you want to send me a message, if you still have questions, you go on Instagram, on the top right you have 3 dots. That's like in the introduction, a 101 to Instagram. And then you have send message, and you can send me a message, and I'm happy to answer any questions you still might have. Also here, my WhatsApp or email. Thank you very much for your time and your attention. I really enjoyed being here today, and I hope to see you around. Thank you.